So it's that time of year again to start putting out trough heaters. So in this video I want to talk about some of the tips and tricks that I've come across over the years. We're putting out 6 troughs this winter time. Now we're going to have to run heaters too. And when you start running that many troughs, you start coming up with some ideas and some better solutions to how to do that. My first suggestion is to get really good extension cords. It's hard to go into Home Depot or whatever hardware store and look at the extension cords and think, man, I'm spending $100 on an extension cord. Think of it more as an investment. There's a reason why they're more expensive. The smaller, cheaper extension cords, even if they're outdoor, the orange type, they're smaller. They have a lot more resistance to electricity, which means they cannot carry as heavy of a load, like electrical load. And you'll notice that if you pay attention to the actual ratings, the wattages and the amps that the extension cords are rated for. So the very good ones will be somewhere around 15 amps, and they'll be able to run like 1800, 1900 watts. So now imagine you have a trough heater that's a 1500 watt trough heater, and you can only run one per extension cord. Like that doesn't seem like it's going to work too well. A lot of people don't even realize this, and they'll string up daisy chain, 3 or 4, well, maybe two to 3 of the 1500 watt trough heaters off an extension cord that's really only rated for maybe 1500 watts or 1200 watts. When you start thinking about that, that's an electrical hazard. You start tripping breakers. Other things can happen as well. The other thing you'll notice with those really thin extension cords is that the ice and the snow will melt around them. That's because the resistance to the electrical current is actually generating heat, so you're actually losing it in heat loss. More expensive extension cords allow you to daisy chain more heaters together, go longer distances safely, and when you do that, you're also less likely to trip breakers and such, because you're not likely to be overloading the system because the extension cord itself is generating loss. The extension cords I'm talking about, normally they'll be rated or they'll be called like a 10-3 or 12-3 or 14-3. Again, you want to look at the amp ratings and the wattage ratings. You might notice that like a 14/3 extension cord at 50 feet might be rated for 15 amps at 1875 watts, but the same 14/3 at 100 feet is rated for maybe only 13 amps and like 1600 or 1500 watts. And the reason is that there's more resistance in the line. So the longer the extension cord becomes, the more resistance just in the wiring itself. The extension cord wires will be noticeable. The other thing I like to get with the extension cords is to get ones that have ends that are lit. So I'll show you an example of that right now. That red right in there is the light. The nice thing about having these lights is that you can quickly survey your extension cords and seeing if a trough freezes over. Why is it freezing over? Is it the extension cord? Did it lose power? Did it trip a breaker? Did it become unplugged? You can look, especially at night, you're finishing up your chores and you just take a quick survey and you can see, okay, that one has a light, that one has a light, that one has a light. Okay, everything should be lit, everything should be plugged back in or running properly, and those should stay thawed out overnight. I find this extremely helpful, but that's own personal preference. You can do it your own way if you like. I do find troubleshooting extension cords or frozen troughs to be kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, especially if you have multiple trough heaters, various other things on one circuit. Now, when we run trough heaters, we also tend to have heaters on the yard hydrants out near the pastures. So those are also running an additional current. So that's why for us it's important to get really nice extension cords. You can run an extension cord and kind of create like a hub with a really expensive extension cord, and then maybe with a lighter duty extension cord you can go to individual troughs. So that's one option, using a splitter, but again, you want to get heavy duty splitters and just make sure you are matching the extension cord with the proper wattage. Also, you want to get extension cords that are not too long. The longer the extension cord is, the more of an electrical draw you're going to have on the system. Again, so like a 50-foot one may be rated for 15 amps. A 100-foot extension cord may be only rated for 13 amps. That's because they create a little bit of a draw. So you don't want to run excessive lengths of extension cords. Try to figure out what lengths you're going to need. You know, you're not going to be perfect, and that's okay, but you don't want to have a 100-foot extension cord where a 50-foot one would have sufficed, or a 25-foot one would have sufficed. It would have been really overkill, plus you're spending a lot of extra money on extension cords. Now getting to trough heaters themselves, a lot of people, the most common one available is a 1500 watt, that coil style trough heater. I found that those are not necessary. Those are overkill unless you're really trying to heat the water, like not just keep it from freezing, but actually heating it. Then you could use those. But I find those to be more of a liability than anything. Even the ones that float or they have a wire cage, you know, they come off the wire cage and then they melt the plastic trough. Or, you know, there's a lot, they just draw a lot of power that's unnecessary. You don't need that. So I found these other style, they're like these little donut shaped ones. They draw 500 watts, so a third the power. And, you know, this is Southeast Michigan. It does get cold. We get into the -10s, -15s. I wouldn't say every year, but at least every other year, and usually for at least a few days, maybe even a week at a time. We've had winters that were much rougher than that, and the little 500 watt trough heaters were able to keep the troughs thawed. Not completely. You'll get a little hole above, like little ice over, except for a hole above the heater itself, just enough for a horse to be able to drink in. And that's sufficient. That's exactly what you need. You might break it up in the mornings just to make sure that the horses are aware that the trough is available. Last but not least, at the end of the season, storing all your heaters and your extension cords, you know, in a way that you'll be able to have them again for the next year. Because again, think of this more as an investment and not so much as just a, you know, one-time purchase that, you know, you have to buy every year because they get trashed or what. So I'll show you some of the strategies we use to help organize them, some of the clips and stuff, and you know, and then you put them in bins, and then next year you'll have them ready to go. Same thing with the heaters. Some of the things we have, the extension cords are, a lot of them are out right now, so we have reels for some of them. The other thing is we get these clips, and so notice I use 2 clips to hold the extension cord, one for one end and then the other. And this is one of those light ends that light up. This is a heavy duty extension cord, and you can see this other one also has 2 clips, just so they don't get tangled. One thing that I didn't mention is also good to know. Typically when an extension cord goes bad, it's one of the ends that goes bad. If you find that happens, an end gets stepped on, destroyed, something, I've had an extension cord arc out on the end here. You can actually replace the ends with a weather-resistant end and save yourself a ton of money, because it'll cost you maybe $10 to get a really nice end for it versus, you know, $100 for, you know, or $70 or $80, $60, whatever it is, for a whole new extension cord. So you keep those here. And then for the heaters, we have them here. So we do have a few of these style. This is probably like a 750 watt one. We don't really use them, but we do have them. They're kind of legacy from when we were using these. And then here's some more of these donut style. And then I always test these. The easiest way to test them is plug them in, and you can just feel them, and then they'll start getting warm. You know, they're getting warm, they're still good, and then you put them out on the trough, and you're good to go. So here is kind of like one of the daisy chain junctions. So we have the extension cord that's coming from the barn is this one right here. So this is a higher quality, get it from Home Depot, super flexible even though it's cold weather. This makes it so much easier. This end is also lit. It might be hard to see in the video, but the nice thing is if it loses power, then I can see this from the barn. I have it up on this trough just to keep it out of the weather, out of the muck, and out of that stuff. Now I have the splitter here going to one tub heater here. This is not a standard one that we normally run. And then I have this other extension cord here going to this trough again, so I loop this up and keep it off the ground, out of the snow, out of the melt, and then I have the heater in there, and you can see it. It's a little donut shaped one, warming a 50-gallon trough. The reason I like these ones, this is only a 500 watt heater, so it draws a lot less power, and so you can daisy chain a lot more of them on extension cords. They won't melt the plastic tubs, and they're they're sufficient to keep the water from freezing. I wouldn't say the water's warm, but at least it keeps it from freezing. And even at, this is southeast Michigan, in -10-degree weather, this will keep a trough, at least a spot open for the horses to be able to drink from. The other suggestion I have is whenever, sometimes it's hard, you have a gate, you have an extension cord that's going to run across the face of the gate, horses are going to be coming in and out of here. I cover the extension cords with rubber mats. It's just to help protect them so that when the ground's, especially when it's frozen, that the horses don't sever the extension cord. So that's pretty much it. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. We'll have more equine and farm related videos coming, and some horse training and all that coming down the pipe. If you're interested, please subscribe. We would definitely appreciate it. If you have any comments or constructive criticism, please leave it in the comment section below. We'll try to get to them as soon as we can. And so thank you very much.